Lily and Mark were a young couple with a knack for adventure, always seeking out the road less travelled. When they stumbled upon an isolated cabin rental in a remote town nestled within dense woods, they booked it without hesitation, excited to escape the world and connect with nature. The cabin, advertised as the last place before the pines, seemed to promise the perfect mix of serenity and solitude. The townsfolk, however, were strangely tense when they arrived, casting them wary glances and offering unsolicited warnings. One woman, old and bent over with age, tugged on Lily's sleeve as they stocked up on food. Her voice was low, brittle as dry leaves. "The pines will whisper to you. Don't listen no matter what they say." They laughed it off, dismissing her as superstitious. But as they settled into the cabin that evening, a peculiar unease began to creep over them. The cabin, though rustic and charming by day, was ominously silent by night. Even the forest around them held its breath as the sun set, leaving only a stillness that weighed on them. Just as they were getting ready for bed, they heard it, a faint whisper, like a breeze skimming through the trees. But it was more than the wind. "Lily, come to the woods." The whisper was gentle, soothing, but unmistakably calling her name. Mark hadn't heard it at first, but when Lily's face went pale, he knew something was wrong. "Did you hear that?" she stammered. He shook his head, but before he could answer, the voice grew louder, calling both of their names now, whispering promises of secrets in the woods, of wonders hidden among the trees. Determined to prove it was just an echo or a breeze, they stepped outside, clutching a flashlight as they peered into the darkness. The trees loomed, black as shadows, and the whispers seemed to multiply, twisting around them, pulling them further into the woods. But the deeper they went, the more twisted and unnatural the trees became. Their bark was splintered, clawing toward the sky like bony hands, and a strange smell filled the air, damp and metallic. And still the voices called, relentless and insistent. When they reached a clearing, they froze. In the middle of it stood a rotted ancient tree, gnarled and split wide open as though it had been clawed from the inside. But worse were the eyes, dozens of them staring out from the bark, watching them. Human eyes embedded in the wood, each one blinking as though alive. One eye shifted, locking onto Lily. Its pupil dilated and a voice escaped, almost human, hoarse and desperate. "Help us!" They stumbled back, horrified, but the ground beneath them seemed to give, pulling their feet down like quicksand. The whispers grew louder, now demanding, furious. They turned, trying to run, but it was as though the trees themselves moved, twisting, trapping them in a labyrinth that led them in circles, always returning to the tree with the blinking eyes. Desperate, Mark shouted into the woods, demanding they be left alone. The only response was a single, terrible whisper, different from the others, deep and ancient. "Once you hear the pines, you never leave." The next morning, the old woman at the general store shook her head, looking into the woods beyond the cabin, her face filled with a sorrow that ran deep. No one went in after them, and no one saw the couple again. But on quiet nights, if you stand at the edge of the whispering pines, you might hear them. Faint voices, calling out from the trees, forever trapped, just like the ones who came before.